Welcome CBC families. It's Tim Gillard from the CBC Counseling Office here with Kaje Sanford from the University of Missouri St. Louis. And today we're going to talk about, thank you very much for being here, by the way, Kaje. Today we're going to be talking about the FAFSA and some basics about financial aid. And we think this is most important probably for senior families at CBC who are right in the midst of applying to college these days. But also it can be really helpful for juniors, sophomores, and freshmen even, just to kind of get an understanding of what is coming when they're
100%.
applying to college for senior year and then beyond it in college, because the FAFSA affects the college years as well. So today we're going to be talking FAFSA Made Simple, understanding the FAFSA and financial aid for CBC families. And we're really thankful to have Kaje joining us today. The CBC counselors have seen Kaje at a number of different presentations, and we thought if we need someone in here to talk FAFSA, we want it to be Kaje. So thanks a lot for being here.
Of course.
So let's start talking about the FAFSA. We're going to start with what is it, what's the purpose of it, and I'll tell you the part that I can handle right off the bat. I know what FAFSA stands for.
Okay.
So FAFSA is an acronym, and it stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid.
100%.
And so how about you take it from there with some of the FAFSA basics?
So I think you really nailed half of it right there, where first word is free. It is always, always free. Do not pay for it. Again, schools have resources, UMSL is a resource as well, to help students and families complete it. But the biggest thing about the FAFSA is that it is pretty much that main financial determinant of what students will receive at every school they may go to or apply to. So it is extremely important because, again, outside of that, there's no way a school can know what you're eligible for, whether it's grants or even sometimes scholarships.
Okay, so it sounds like the FAFSA is the main way that colleges learn about a family's financial situation and then make decisions about grants and scholarships and work study and things like that based on that information.
Correct.
So families actually find the FAFSA online and then submit it online. What is the FAFSA like to complete? What kind of information is on there?
So the FAFSA, it is very financial heavy. So again, you want to make sure you have all your financial documents in hand, just in case you have any changes to anything. The biggest thing about it is that it is prior year. So pretty much it is using tax information from 2 years before the student goes to school.
So let's talk about that specifically. For the class of 26 out of high school, when they're completing the FAFSA prior, does that mean 24?
That's correct. Yep, 2024.
If they're 26 out of high school.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So whatever year that student plans to start their college semester, they're using the tax documents from 2 years prior. And that's the easiest way to remember is if that student is going to college in fall 26, they're using the 2024 tax information.
So when they get on the FAFSA, they're prompted to answer many fewer questions than they used to be.
Yes.
When my kids went to college and we completed the FAFSA, it was a pretty substantial document.
100%.
What's it like now?
It is a breeze. I don't mean it to say that in an easy way, but it is so much more simple. Again, for parents, and there's a lot of parents out there that have done it in the past for older students or themselves, it is a lot more simplified, a lot fewer questions. Again, technology has grown, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it often now pulls that information from the IRS. So as long as tax documents are submitted, they just automatically pull them over. So that honestly make it a lot more hassle-free.
And I think it's down to, I have a number in my head, is it something like 38 questions on the FAFSA now, or maybe even fewer?
Give or take, based on kind of, what questions you answer, yes or no. There may be something else that prompts, but yeah, normally I always tell students if you can honestly take 15 minutes with your parent
15.
and just sit down and do it. Honestly, if there's no distractions, we're not trying to do anything else, 15 minutes with tax documents in hand, your FSA ID, again, parents and students have to create that.
Let's talk about that a little bit. How to prepare to access and then submit. What should parents do before they even complete the FAFSA?
First thing is FSA ID. So parents and students need one. That's the biggest thing.
Where do they find the FSA ID? How do they start going about this?
Studentaid.gov is kind of that big hub for your FAFSA, financial information, loan information, all of that. You can also Google FSA ID. It will take you directly there. You will need your social and a separate email for that. So again, that's why parents and students have to have a separate one. But that one probably takes about 5 minutes to create because it's just pretty much verifying who you are. So demographic information, social security information, making sure you are who you say you are before we link it to the FAFSA.
So you alluded to it there. The FSA ID and all of these websites you go to should be .gov, right?
.gov, correct.
You should never. There are scams out there for everything, including financial aid, and there's even every year recently there's been a FAFSA.com. There's been things that it's easy if you do a Google search and the ads come up to click on something that is not the actual FAFSA. Make sure you're dealing with .gov or studentaid.gov or FAFSA.gov or some .gov website. We're talking FSA ID at the moment. The parents need one. Does each parent need one, and does the student need his or her own?
So that one's kind of up in there. So if you have a two-parent household, so pretty much the families are married and filing joint. So again, how they file taxes. They're married, filing joint, and they're both in the household. You only need one parent. You need the student though, but you only need one parent.
Okay.
If there is, again, a single parent household, you only need that one parent, but you may need the other parent as a contributor. The way it is now set up is all contributors must have an FSA ID. Contributors.
Okay, contributors.
Correct.
So in some cases that's one parent and the student. It's always the student, right?
Always the student.
Always the student, and then 1 to 2.
One to two parents.
I guess conceivably it could be more than 2.
It should not ever be more than 2.
Okay.
But yeah, there is that opportunity, that option sometimes where you have dad, stepmom, mom, stepdad, or just two-parent household. So sometimes there are 1 and sometimes there's 2. So it all depends.
Okay, and then each needs an FSA ID before completing the FAFSA.
That is correct.
How long does it take to get an FSA ID?
Normally completing the FSA ID process, again, takes about 5 to 7 minutes. And normally, if you set it up at least a day ahead of time, it'll all be linked. We do see that we have problems sometimes when it comes to delayed starts when students complete, or parents complete an FSA ID right before they do a FAFSA, because sometimes there may be additional verification on the back end that takes some time. So we try to always say at least give it 24 to 48 hours before completing the FAFSA.
Okay, so get the FSA ID first. What else is necessary to prepare for the FAFSA?
FSA ID, tax documents. Those are the 2 biggest things. Again, it's mainly a financial application. So as long as you have that financial information in place, the FAFSA is a breeze.
Yeah, and it's so much easier than it used to be. So any from 24 onward, it's gotten easier. Yeah, there was one year there where it was real dicey in terms of the opening. It kept getting delayed and stuff. Hey, if you're watching this video today, you don't have to worry about any of that because now it's pretty smooth. This year, it opened on time, didn't it? October 1st?
It opened early,
actually. A few days early,
It caught everybody off guard. But it pretty much took all of the negative things that happened in 2024, 2025 when it was first kind of being rebuilt to be simplified. And now that process is, again, just smoothened out.
And we expect the date heading into the future to be October 1st opening.
Always October 1st.
So are there benefits to, or do you recommend completing the FAFSA earlier? Or is there a deadline that as long as you get it done by the deadline, you're good? Or is it recommended to do it quickly? Or what's
There are 2 answers to that. One, yes, always do it as early as possible. That also, one, shows that school that you're very, very interested. But outside of that, there may be additional grants or scholarships that require a FAFSA on file, and they may have certain deadlines that close if you wait too long. Outside of that, the priority deadline, at least for, again, Missouri, is that February 1 deadline that makes you eligible for the most money possible, whether it's state grant and federal grants. But again, I would definitely check with any school that you're interested in to see what their priority deadlines are. But for most of our Missouri schools, it is that February 1st state deadline.
And especially, like you said, since it's so, it tends to not, unless there's a very complicated situation, it shouldn't take too long to complete it. It's a pretty easy document. Get it in as soon as possible, really. We would recommend for all the families, right?
100%.
So once you have the FSA ID and your taxes kind of squared away, and now you go to do the FAFSA, and it's very, very common now and strongly recommended that you import the tax information through the FAFSA functionality, right?
So this year is not even an option. It has to be. You have to consent to move to allow the FAFSA to pull your IRS data. Otherwise, if you decline that option, and this is very important, if you decline that option, you are declining financial aid. you have to allow that to happen. It is one of the new steps, but again, it does make things easier. Students aren't having to input all these manual numbers. There are a few questions for, again, those runoffs like IRA rollovers and pensions and stuff, but the generic information can all just be rolled over.
Okay, great to understand. And then, so when you submit the FAFSA, what happens next? A lot of people think it goes straight to the colleges, but it doesn't really go straight to the colleges, right? Doesn't it more go through federal government channels and then to all of the colleges to which the student is applying?
So
how does that work?
I want to say first, and this is a big thing for us, is if you have done the FAFSA, give yourself a high five. Once you've hit that submit button, that is the biggest thing is now to celebrate. That is a big burden for a lot of people and a lot of students. So once you've done it, definitely, again, be excited for yourself. You've done it. Now you're showing schools you're interested. And as you said, it goes to the federal government first. It goes to the Department of Education. Then it gets processed. The only thing I want to make sure that I clarify for everybody out there is that as that FAFSA gets through and gets processed, schools still may receive it but can't process it yet. So it's pretty much kind of two levels of being processed.
Okay.
One is by, again, Department of Ed, federal gov. That part is being processed, and then once the schools can receive it, because we have to update our systems every year, then we process it. But if a student does it as early as October 2nd, we normally may receive it October 10th or 5th or whatever it may be, but we won't process financial aid until closer to that December or January date.
I see. Okay.
it's a little different.
Okay. So their job, though, is to just submit it.
Yep.
After that, it's out of their hands and in the right places.
Yep.
But it goes through the federal government and then to all the universities. It's processed by the feds, then it's processed at some point by the university.
That's correct.
What does the FAFSA tell universities? I remember when my oldest was applying, it was the expected family contribution, the EFC, and families would get a number back and they'd understand, could you talk about what the student aid index is and the EFC and what it means?
100%. So again, EFC has now changed for any of my parents out there that have done it in the past. It is now the student aid index.
Okay.
And that number is still similar. It is not an expected contribution. It is just now what has been calculated as what a student's family, again, may make and may be able to contribute. It is not saying what they're willing to contribute at all. It is not the number we're expecting parents to provide us. If they see a $20,000 SAI, we're not expecting to receive $20,000 from them. We're just looking at all the financial information to determine if they're eligible for any federal, state grants, as well as any institutional scholarships or grants. So that's what that number is, and that number is the same across the board. It is the same. It does not change no matter what school you send it to. That SAI is the same. It just, each school can determine what they can offer based on that number though.
Okay, and each school does different things with it
100%.
and how they meet the need of the family.
Correct.
Some colleges don't meet the need of the family. Some will offer a package of loans and scholarships.
Correct.
Some schools out there will meet 100% of family need without even loans.
Correct.
Some of the schools, like I believe WashU is one of those schools that does that, and some others. So it's a standard set of information that goes to the universities, but what the universities do with that information varies by school.
100%.
Right?
Yep, that is 100% correct.
And how do families then become aware of what the colleges have decided?
Gotcha. Students, set up your student email.
Okay.
When we
and
receive
as
it,
part of the application process.
correct. And again, never use it. And I want to make sure I say that for FSAID, never use your student email again, because that email will be deactivated, and you need this every year. So never use that
CBC
email.
emails disappear within a number of months after
Correct.
graduation. So use your personal email, just like we suggest that you do for Common App as well.
100%. And the FAFSA will respond and say, hey, your FAFSA has been processed to your regular email that you put on your FSAID. When it comes to each student or each school's financial aid offer letter. So again, when we're offering that out, we have to send it to the student's school email because it has such pertinent information to their specific account that we don't want that lost in a Gmail or an AOL or anything like that.
Okay.
So that's why we always tell students at least top 5, top 10. We don't want you getting emails from everywhere. Set up those student accounts, set up those student emails for those top 5, top 10 schools. That way you're on top of it, because if we need something, that's where we say, hey, we got your FAFSA, but we need something else.
When
that's
you
where we
say
reach out.
their student emails, are you referring to like an UMSL,
UMSL
the UMSL.edu email
Correct.
address?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you want to get those set up. Once you're admitted to that institution, you should be able to have your
You get
user
access
ID
to the
and stuff.
portal,
Exactly.
and then you can get an email address.
Exactly.
And
set
that's
that up.
where you would find the information, or
Yes.
maybe mailed home at some point?
The initial time normally for schools, they'll mail it out to them so that you have it. But any updates, normally we don't send in the mail.
Okay.
So that's where we say you'll get an email like, hey, this has changed, or hey, we need this extra.
That's my old school. Like,
Oh, no,
aren't you
you're
gonna
fine.
mail it at some point? You know, like,
We do still mail at least
all
one.
right, that makes me feel a little bit better. So that's the student aid index,
Mm-hmm.
which is the amount of money has been determined is fair to expect the family to contribute to.
I wouldn't
how would
even
you
use
put
that
it?
anymore. And I think that's where EFC, that's why they wanted to get away from EFC,
Okay.
because families started to feel intimidated by that.
Okay.
It is honestly just based on what that financial information is, here's this number. And this number here then determines, what we may be able to assist with. Now, again, that number does come from taxes, how many people are in a household and everything else, but it is not an expected number anymore. It's pretty much just saying, based on all this information, here's this 4 or 5 3-digit number. We try to go away from kind of calling it dollars, just to make sure the families don't feel as though that's something we expect from them.
Okay, all right, that's really helpful to hear. And then, so the process is it opens on October 1st. They submit it hopefully as soon as possible.
October 2nd.
But keep an eye, as soon as possible, and then keep an eye on those priority deadlines, like
Correct.
you said, to make sure you have it done by then. But really, the earlier the better. And then they eventually hear from the college about scholarships and grants and things like work study.
100%.
Okay, and then one of the reasons we at CBC recommend that our students apply to a number of different colleges, at least like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 schools. Sorry about that. I can't resist lately. But if they apply to a certain number of schools, then in the spring when they're really, they know where they're admitted, they know what the financials, they have a better picture of what the financial situation looks like, and then you guys have options when you're sitting around the table in the springtime trying to make your decision about where to go to school.
100%. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier rather than kind of trying to rush and get that information in February and then hoping that the school gets back to you by April so you can make a decision by May. The earlier you do that, the earlier you can have that information. That way you're not stressed about going through all of it, because it is a very intimidating process to choose a school. And we understand that. That's why we try to give our students enough time to say, I have received all this aid. This is what tuition will look like if I'm staying on campus. And also the time for them to ask us questions. Hey, why didn't I get this? I thought because of this, I would receive this. We don't want them to be stressed on by May 1, what we call, that college selection day. We don't want them to be stressed about that.
And when you're saying we there, it sounds like you're referring to financial aid professionals in general,
Yeah.
Who are working at these colleges.
Correct.
And they want to, and this is an important thing to understand, financial aid pros, why don't you explain what your job is at your school instead of me?
No, you're fine.
What can families reach out to financial aid people at colleges for help with?
Gotcha. So just that kind of initial part. So again, I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Student Financial Services at the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Okay.
My main focus is scholarships and financial literacy. So again, doing presentations, talking to parents, talking to families, working with families and students on FAFSA and financial aid. That is what I do all day, every day. So I love it. The questions that I receive in which we encourage students and families to ask are, 1, I need help with this FAFSA. 2, why didn't I receive this information, or why didn't I receive this amount of money? Maybe my sibling did, or I thought I qualified for this.
Okay.
We want to be open to have that line of communication, because we want to help students make the best decision possible. And that's, I think, everybody's goal across the board, especially ours at UMSL, is to say, hey, this is what you're eligible for. This is what you would need to pay for. This is kind of your total balance. And we want to make sure that we are being very transparent with our students. So we want people to call and say, this doesn't make sense. No, there's no wrong questions. We want to be able to walk you through what you're actually seeing.
That's awesome to hear. And really, I'm sure you're speaking for financial aid pros at all the colleges, who would say that, because the financial aid people, they want it to work out for you. They want you to be able to attend their university and
100%.
figure it out. And they know the challenges with affording college. And so that's a great main resource to keep in mind.
Yeah.
What other resources would you recommend? I know locally here in St. Louis, we're really lucky to have some great organizations like the Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis.
Correct.
Which is always worth, I know they have all kinds of webinars. They'll meet with families about even interest-free loans that families might be eligible for in the process. So the Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis is one, local one. The government website, studentaid.gov, I think is
very useful.
Pretty useful, well-written, approachable website that kind of breaks some of this admittedly complex stuff down into steps and good information. Financial aid offices themselves, admissions reps are good links to financial aid offices.
That's a very good point.
Who else might you recommend, or any others?
You've honestly hit a lot of them. I think the biggest thing outside of that is that there are a lot of financial aid toolkits or webinars online, kind of like you talked about. Okay. I hate to say it, Google isn't always horrible. Again, we can't trust everything we see, especially with AI and everything that generates, but there are great resources out there when you Google a financial aid toolkit or webinars or FAFSA help. Again, don't pay for anything. Making sure I say that. Don't pay for anything, but utilize all the resources at hand. We're all here to help students make the best decision possible. Yep,
absolutely. And same for your school counselors at CBC. You could come and start with us, and we'll help link you to those resources as well. And speaking of resources, often at CBC, we do have an annual FAFSA completion night here. And we have some financial aid experts come and join us for that from WashU or Missouri Baptist, St. Louis University, and they come in and do some of the basics of financial aid. If we're doing one this year that you're watching the video, we'll have a tile up at the end of the video to plug that as well. Another resource that's helpful for CBC families to keep in mind is the weekly email. Every Wednesday we send out a newsletter to to all of our families and students and faculty and staff. And at the very top of it, we have the virtual bulletin board where we list scholarship opportunities and FAFSA information and that sort of thing. Right in the weekly mail every Wednesday afternoon. Please check that out. And let's just, we'll close here in a minute or two, but I probably should have asked you about the relation. So there's different types of scholarships for college. Today we've exclusively been talking about need-based financial aid.
Correct.
And when you hear need-based financial aid, think that's based on my family's financial situation, right?
Correct.
Okay, need-based. There's also a whole class of financial helpers called merit-based scholarships.
Correct.
And what is a merit-based scholarship?
So merit-based is, again, strictly based on a student's merit. So ACT score, SAT score, GPA, all of those things. Yeah, leadership, involvement, A+, all of those things.
Special talents you might have. You know, if you get a trombone scholarship to a school, that would be a merit one.
Correct.
All right. So does FAFSA affect merit?
No. Nope, they're completely separate. So I will say they're separate in regards to the FAFSA does not affect merit scholarships, but just because you have a merit scholarship doesn't mean you can't also receive FAFSA help. You can quote unquote double dip when it comes to FAFSA and merit, but again, it does not mean that, oh, my FAFSA is too high, I don't have enough need, now I don't receive this merit. That is not necessarily the case. Merit is completely separate from FAFSA.
I've heard that there are schools out there that will only allocate merit scholarships to students who have completed the FAFSA.
There are some out there.
That may be, but
yeah, and that's why I want to make sure I say it very clearly that again, each school is different, and again, I can speak for us, and again, that way, giving a full example, our merit scholarships at UMSL are strictly based, on your merit, ACT score, GPA, both.
And that's kind of the way it should be. That's merit is different than need-based.
Correct.
Okay, one doesn't really affect the other.
But to say that though also, and we kind of talked a little bit about it, is when doing the FAFSA, who all needs an FSA ID, but also who should do it, and that's everybody.
I'm glad you said that, because you did just read my mind. Because we do at CBC, our families sometimes will tell us, I don't need to do the FAFSA, I don't think I'll qualify for anything. And we say, when we're talking to people like Kaje, Sanford, and UMSL, they tell us everybody should do it.
Everybody should do it.
Everybody should do it.
Everybody that can do it should do it. I'm gonna leave it at that because, one of the main reasons I tell people is that outside of the merit scholarships, each school has their own scholarship application. No matter what school it is, there's a separate scholarship application. Those applications can sometimes say, we need a FAFSA on file. It doesn't necessarily mean we need you to be the neediest student. we need a FAFSA on file to be eligible for this scholarship. And so many students miss out on that just because they didn't complete the FAFSA.
So in our combined experience, we're not really aware of a lot of cases where families shouldn't complete the FAFSA.
Not at all.
Me either. All right. Any final advice or anything you're thinking, why didn't we talk about this?
Biggest thing, and again, because there's always going to be something that comes up, and we understand that, is that please build that relationship with your school's financial aid office. Again, talk to your school counselor. But again, we don't know what you don't tell us. And ultimately, again, as I've said multiple times, we're here to assist the students and the families, not to scare them. So we want to build that open line of communication, and we want students and families to feel comfortable reaching out to us so we can walk them through that process. That's the biggest thing, is that I am here today as a resource. I am here today also showcase that we are here moving forward as a resource as well. It's not just today for this.
We really appreciate that. We appreciate the resource you are for all of our families and all the families in the St. Louis area. We sure appreciate you coming in today and talking with us. Again, this is Kaje Sanford from the University of Missouri St. Louis, and we're thankful for the partnership for sure. In the description of this video, this will eventually be posted to YouTube. I'll include links to a lot of the things we talked about here in the description of the video, and please reach out to your CBC counseling office with any questions you might have as we move forward, and we'll go from there. So thanks again, Kaje.
Of course,
Really
thank you for having
appreciate
me.
it. And thanks for joining us today.